there's something for everyone that enjoys Chinese cuisine. Visit 4515 France Avenue South or call 952-927-4439 for takeout and explore their full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TheGailey This is The Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker, in studio, executive producer, Jim Pounds. And in the control room, Brett Johnson.
Hey there, guys.
The snow didn't come.
I know. Yesterday they were saying, like 4 to 8 inches of snow, and it's absolutely nothing. So blame me. I do the weather forecasts.
It was snowpocalypse.
I think it's to the south. Yeah, they're getting it down there.
Maybe it's one of those things where, like, if you say it's coming, then it won't come. And if you didn't say it was coming, then it would come. Maybe that's the time of season that we're in right now.
Maybe.
Okay, well, that's the end of the humor for the day. I'm joking, but we have some big stuff to get to today. Hungary has outlawed pride events, and I think that we're going to talk about this because it is, I feel, especially concerning, as their president last year, Viktor Orban, visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump says that Hungary is who we should aspire to be here in the United States. And if you're thinking, oh, well, it's Hungary, lawmakers in Arkansas are trying to pass a bill that would make it a criminal offense to provide haircuts to trans youth. More on that in a little bit. Trump has also disappeared an LGBTQ asylum seeker from Venezuela, and in the process has ignored a court order to stop deportations of 260 Venezuelans, which leads to the conversation I want to have today, which is who enforces federal law and judicial decisions? And the answer is frustratingly frightening. But first, I want to talk about generational change. So our number is 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. What's really got me thinking about this, and I know that there are other shows that have covered this pretty extensively about Senator Schumer and his decision to capitulate on the spending bill last Friday, along with 9 other Democrats in the Senate. What I've been thinking about since then is the urgent necessity for generational change. And there are these calls for the senator to step down as majority leader, but I don't feel that goes far enough. And I want to start actually by going back to the presidential campaign with President Biden. Technically, we will never know unless we go into an alternate reality of how President Biden would have fared in the 2024 election, because he withdrew in June or July rather, and we don't know. We will never know that. I want to make the argument, however, that he would not have, based on a couple of things. The first thing, Kamala Harris's campaign was run by the same people that Biden had running his campaign, right? So Julie Chavez Rodriguez was the campaign manager for both campaigns. Jen O'Malley Dillon was the campaign chairwoman for both of the campaigns. When you look at the planks of the platform, they're largely Biden's on a structural macro level basis, right? Case in point, international relations. The campaign platform between Biden and Harris was exactly the same. The only difference was the question mark of would Kamala make any significant changes when she got in office. And I think it was reasonable to believe that we would have gotten a new Secretary of State, we would have gotten a new National Security Advisor, we would have gotten a new UN Ambassador, Secretary of Defense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which would have given us a platform as progressives to use those confirmation hearings to really demand the progressive change that we needed to see in the international arena and move away from what Biden was doing. But it was a big question mark of whether there be any changes. Where she did make some additional things that were her own in the campaign were around domestic economic issues. So the credits for the small businesses, we're talking about housing. These were economic things that were not being addressed, sort of kitchen table is what they called them, right? Kitchen table issues that were not being addressed sufficiently by the Biden campaign. So let's look at some final raw data from the campaign. There is this belief that Kamala and the Harris-Walz ticket underperformed Biden, but that is actually incorrect. If we look at the final raw vote totals between 2020 and 2024, the Harris-Walz ticket carried every single blue state that Biden and Clinton in 2016 carried. But Kamala outperformed Biden in 4 of 7 swing states. In Nevada, Kamala got 1,700 more votes in 2024 than Biden did in 2020. In North Carolina, Kamala got 31,000 more votes than Biden did in 2020. In Wisconsin, she got 37,000 more votes than Biden. And in Georgia, she got 74,000 more votes than Biden did. Now we're just looking at raw vote totals between 2024 and 2020. I believe she got to that because she was Kamala Harris and she was adding more domestic policies in there. Otherwise, her campaign was largely Biden's. And I think because of the generational, what we saw from him, particularly in that debate in June, where he was headed, it was just very untenable that he was going to continue and win that campaign. That is my argument. I recognize there will never be a final say because we can't go into an alternate reality where he didn't withdraw. So there we are. I would argue, though, that because so much of the macro level stuff of Kamala's campaign was his, the campaign leadership, largely his, particularly the chairperson and the campaign manager, that he would have lost in November. And that Kamala, and I want to keep saying this, 4 of the 7 swing states, she outperformed Biden. And I think when you look at that, I began to realize why they were so optimistic going into Election Day is because they were probably tracking these numbers and seeing where she was at in the early vote compared to Biden and going, oh, wow, we are actually on track here and we could probably win this thing. I think that's what they were looking at. There was also the media reports, particularly from MSNBC. They kept hammering that Trump did not have a get out the vote operation. And they kept going after how Musk had been outsourced to Musk and he was doing a terrible job. And there were all these things happening. Their analysis was wrong, which is one of the reasons why I don't listen to MSNBC anymore. Because they got that very, very wrong in their analysis of the get out the vote operations between the two campaigns. When I see Biden's campaign, which I believe was going on to lose, and now when I see Chuck Schumer capitulating, and the thing that got me, and I'm like, no, I want to talk about this now, is the interview he gave on The View this week, where he was basically talking down to a black woman and saying, you're not being smart and strategic. I was being smart and strategic about how to deal with this bill, and that this bill, we had to pass this bill because otherwise there would have been a worse situation that's completely undefined and unknowable. He's not laying it out there. And this, what got me about that was the same thing about what Biden said last year. I am the only one who can fix this. I am the smartest person in the room. And that's just not true. Kamala Harris outperformed Biden, even with his own campaign, adding what she could to the platform. She outperformed Biden. And I think that there are calls for Chuck Schumer to step down as minority leader in the Senate, but that is not going far enough. We have too many people in the Senate who have frankly are past the expiration date of their service. And if I'm being ageist in that, fine, whatever. But I do not believe in a democracy that Chuck Grassley should be in his 90s and has represented Iowa for 40 years. How does that make us any different than Russia, where they don't have real elections, but they have the same people over and over again? Why do we have elections in this country if we're just going to reelect Amy Klobuchar every single time? No offense, I think Amy is a great senator. There's things I have disagreed with her on, but if we're just going to keep reelecting her because she's the incumbent, we're going to keep Chuck Grassley in there until he dies. We're going to keep Chuck Schumer in there until he dies. Like, literally, Senator Feinstein died in office, and it is very questionable if she was actually coherent and lucid enough to be a senator in the United States Senate. But they are misreading what is happening right now. They are playing by a playbook that is incorrect. That's what they were saying on The View, that you are trying to play by a game that is no longer a game. And if we don't change this, we are not going to have an effective response in 2028. And I wish that I wish that we could have had Christopher Kane on with us today. We had been promising that he was supposed to join us. He has an amazing profile of Representative Garcia out of California, a gay representative. But that's irrelevant to what he is doing right now and making the tough calls and doing the communication that needs to be done right now to lead the fight. Unfortunately, Christopher is under the weather pretty significantly. Couldn't come on the show today, so we wish him well. Well, we hope he gets better real soon, and we will have him back on next week to talk about this really fantastic profile. But the strategy that I feel that we need right now is to start to call on people to resign, to step down from their posts, and to let a new generation of leadership. Biden said that he was going to do that. He lied. He reneged on his pledge. And I know it's really difficult to take a big, complex situation like the American political electorate and boil it down to one single point to explain it. But I believe you can put the blame on a single person for why the Democrats lost, and that was Joe Biden. If he would have done what he said he was going to do and stepped down, we could have had a real primary. Kamala would have had an entire season, or someone else would have had an entire season to define their campaigns, to differentiate themselves from the Biden administration, and to have an entire year to talk to the American public. But we didn't get that. I'm going to get Jim's reaction after this, but I want to get your reaction as well. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Quick break. We're going to continue the conversation after this. You're listening to The Gailey Show.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We'll talk about how civics, politics, and law affect you by highlighting a different topic each week. On this week's show, we cover part of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, cover some legal cases that Trump is losing bigly in federal court, and more criticism of Chuck Schumer. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch to discover why government and civics matter, and podcast the show anytime on your favorite app.
Hey, Twin Cities, ready to turn your side hustle into a main hustle? Struggling to grow your business or find the capital you need? We've got the solution. Join us for the Capital Readiness Summit, April 10 through 12 at the Wilder Foundation in St. Paul. This two-day event is packed with hands-on workshops and powerful networking opportunities. Meet local investors, connect with national resources, and build relationships that could take you years to find on your own. This is your chance to level up your business and join the thriving small business ecosystem. But don't wait, this event sells out every year. Act now. Grab your ticket today at www.connectupmn.org. Flexible payment options are available. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn for the latest updates and discount codes. Don't miss the Capital Readiness Summit. Your next big move starts here.
You may not think of it, but winter is a great time to take care of those exterior home projects. This is Chad, owner of AM 950 for Snap Construction. Most people wait until the warmer months for their exterior home projects, but labor costs are actually lowest in the winter. And that's true for the contractor I trust, Snap Construction. Arguably the most well-reviewed exterior contractor and insulation contractor in the metro. Are you noticing ice dams on your house, or is your furnace constantly running and you're still not comfortable? In addition to your exterior home projects, winter is also a great time to get your insulation checked with a free energy audit from Snap Construction. The average cost to upgrade your insulation is oftentimes less than a new furnace. Plus, there are rebates available from your energy provider when you upgrade your insulation. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. So don't wait for prices to rise in the warmer months. Get a free estimate now by calling 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or go to snapconstruction.com.
Some days I feel so down I can barely get out of bed. Is this depression?
I feel so tense and worried all the time. Is this anxiety?
Check up on your mental health. Take an online mental health screening at mentalhealthmn.org. Mental Health Minnesota has online mental health screenings, resources, support, and connections to treatment and crisis services. All anonymous, confidential, free of charge, and open 7 days a week. Mental Health Minnesota is here for you. mentalhealthmn.org. Sponsored by Mental Health Minnesota, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Welcome back to the Daily Show. I'm your host, John Parker. It is 21 minutes past the hour. Our call-in number, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Based off of what we were talking about in the first break, I want to continue here. The need for generational change. And I think that there are folks in the Senate who have been there for so long that their entire concept of how this country should work is still operating from the 1980s and the 1990s. Because frankly, a lot of them were voted in originally back then, some in the 70s. And when you look at the argument can be, well, look at, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he's in his 80s, and look, he's out there. He's saying the right thing. Yes, I love Bernie. I voted for Bernie in both of the primaries. I would have loved to have seen a President Sanders. Absolutely 100%. Bernie has been fighting this fight. The way that he's approaching this is exactly how he's approached. It's the reason why he's an independent and caucuses with the Democrats, right? The frame of reference of the world that he is using right now is exactly what he's been doing from a very long time. So that is why he's able to run immediately to Kansas, to Iowa, to Wisconsin, to Michigan, and to have these town halls and to say, hey, what's happening now is very, very wrong, because he's been fighting this fight from a very specific political model for a very, very long time. Chuck Schumer has not been doing that. And a lot of the folks in the Senate do not understand that as well. And I think for us, we need to get our house in order, in the sense that we need to ask for generational change. More senators need to be stepping down. We need to be having primaries coming up here this fall, leading into 2028. And I want to read something. I'm going to read one more thing, Jim, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. This is from Patrick Nathan, who is an author that we featured here on the show. He has a book called Image Control: Social Media, Fascism, and the Dismantling of Democracy. Must read if you want to understand what's happening, how social media is used to promote fascism on a structural level. But he has a really interesting Substack called Entertainment Weekly, and Weekly spelled Weakly. And in this week's essay or piece that he posted, he said, with few exceptions, our opposition party, the Democratic Party, refuses to grant its voters and donors the dignity of the truth. What's worse, the tenor of their lies makes supporting them feel like sacrifice or a chore. Meanwhile, the lies Republicans tell are exalting, exciting, easy to understand. Through lying, they invite you to participate in something great, whereas Democrats invite you to quietly sit down and respect the process, which is what Chuck Schumer is doing here. We need to have that generational change. Jim, your thoughts?
Well, this is one of these times when I disagree with almost everything you said, because I think the premise is wrong. And that is, we are in the situation we're in because of two things that I can identify. One, 7 million of our supporters, people we thought who were our supporters, didn't show up in 2024. That appears to be true. Not in the, as you say, maybe 3 swing states that was true, and not in 4, whatever the situation was. But nationally, we were down 6.9 million votes. So that's one of the reasons we're sitting in a bucket at the bottom with no water in it. So we couldn't be less powerful nationally. That's one truth. Another truth is that the person in the White House is not a patriot, is not a person that believes in this country. And he managed to get a lot of people, and I believe he's working at the behest of Vladimir Putin to harm this country, and he's doing it successfully. Musk has a different motivation. So we're not dealing with two opposing political views who want to, one wants to lower taxes, one wants to raise taxes, whatever. It's not the kind of usual discourse that, like you say, Chuck Schumer is used to. This is somebody that is trying to wreck the federal government, is very happy to harm tens of millions of Americans, killing them if that's what happens. It's not like he's out there doing that deliberately, but this is somebody who is anti-American. And a lot of people voted for him because they thought the system was broken. But in truth, what was broken is late stage capitalism. It's late stage capitalism and the greed that fuels it that's killing and will kill, I believe, millions of Americans, not the government. The government has its problems.
The question is about generational change.
So generational change in and of itself means nothing unless there are tactics that will come out of that generational change. I believe in having a law that says you shouldn't serve in the United States Supreme Court past the age of 70. So age limits, that makes sense to me. I'm not a huge fan of saying you can't serve more than X number of terms, but I do think when you reach 70, thank you for your service. And maybe in all public life, you're done. I think that would ensure some of what you're saying. But somebody that replaces Chuck Schumer in this weak, horrible situation we find ourselves in with a man that hates the United States of America is, unless they are willing to employ really radical and potentially dangerous tactics to change the dynamic, because we have no power right now. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that
that
AOC would
point
be
is,
able to change.
That point is well taken, but
dynamic.
I do believe that's the next step of what I'm. Yes. I think that what you're asking for is actually being proposed by folks like AOC, by folks like Representative Garcia, by folks like why can't I remember names today? From Florida, who
you mean going to Republican districts and holding public things?
Yes, but I think that there needs the leadership that we need, the policies and the fight that we need is not coming from the generation of senators that are there, because they still think this is the 1990s. And the folks that are not being allowed to have leadership positions, the folks who have the fight that we need right now, are the younger generations.
That's a hypothetical.
It's not a hypothetical. Representative Garcia, AOC.
Versus the practical of saying, what would they practically do? Representative Garcia. I like this tactic of going into Republican districts and saying, hey, if they're cowards,
not voting for a bill that is absolute garbage.
But if Schumer is right, and he certainly gets the ins and outs of that, would the outcome, if they had not approved that bill, been worse? I believe the people in power right now will destroy this country fundamentally if given the opportunity, and that we're not really having a political discussion. We're having a not a fight metaphorically, but a real fight.
What you're saying is that they're trying to destroy the country. If they're trying to destroy the country, then why are 10 Democrats going along with it?
Well, I'm assuming they believe the same thing Schumer does, that they're taking the lesser of two evils. But let me give you one example. Let's say
we have a break coming up, so make it quick.
Okay, that they're right that they're going to harm Social Security or take it away. That
actually, no, you're going to have to hold that.
Oh
for the break,
boy, okay.
We're coming up here. We're going to continue this frustrating conversation and maybe move on to other things when we get back. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Tom Hartman, and you can catch me every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's smart radio for smart people.
Join us on Thursday, March 20th for a special live 2-hour Ghostbox radio event starting at the special time of 9 p.m. Travis Walton was abducted by aliens November 5th, 1975, and wrote about his experience in his book, The Walton Experience.
I felt like I was dying. And this is what really fueled the panic when I finally laid eyes on these creatures. They came around the table and the three of them were coming towards me. And I just grabbed something from behind me and started swinging it at them.
The book was later made into the 1993 film Fire in the Sky. Travis Walton, along with Jennifer Stein, director of the film, Travis Walton the Movie, will join me for this special 2-hour live interview along with questions from callers. Join us for the live Travis Walton Ghostbox Radio 2-hour special, Thursday, March 20th at the special time of 9 p.m.
You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
With Donald Trump in office, blue cities like Minneapolis have a real opportunity to show what effective Democratic governance looks like. But we need the right leaders. 90% of the time, the DFL-endorsed city council candidate wins in November. That's why the caucus matters. It's your chance to decide what kind of Democrat represents our party. Minneapolis needs leaders focused on safety, affordability, and opportunity, proving blue cities can be a model for Democrats. Yet, only 2% of registered voters participate, and often their views don't reflect the majority of Democrats. But they show up because they know it's the most important way to support their candidate. This year on April 8th, be part of the change you want in your city and party. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. If you care about public safety, city leadership, and the future of Minneapolis, you need to be at the caucuses. Visit WeLoveMPLS.org today to learn how easy it is to caucus. Show up, speak out, take action.
Paid for by We Love Minneapolis, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies today with a high near 42. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 26. And Thursday, sunny with a high near 49. Celebrate 15 years of Matt McNeil's Progressive Voice on AM 950. Join us Sunday, March 30th at the Crooner Supper Club for a special dinner event featuring a live conversation with Nancy Nelson interviewing Matt, plus heartfelt video tributes. Get your tickets now at am950radio.com. That's am950radio.com.
Coming to you live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. This is the Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes past the hour. I'm your host, John Parker. In studio with me is executive producer. Our call-in number, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Here is the question that I have then. Jim, for you and for anyone who's listening right now, the contention that Senator Schumer is putting forward is that if we didn't pass this, anything that happens after that would be all our fault. And I think it's absolutely stunning and underscores the complete failure of this generation's communications leadership, that the Democrats, who are in the minority, would be blamed for all of the terrible things that are coming in this bill. They will be blamed for saying, no, you know what? Half of America did not vote for you. We do not want these things in this bill. We are extracting concessions for you. This will not move forward until you negotiate. We are going to be blamed for that. And that is the failure of, first of all, the tactic is incorrect. And C, but if you think that it is, that means that you are conceding that your communication strategy has been so terrible that you are giving up any opportunity to change the narrative.
Well, I think again, people my age can remember a time when you could count on the news media or somebody to give you some objectivity from what either political side was saying. And we're not living in that time anymore. We have paid for corporate propaganda that will say exactly that. They will blame the Democrats for every hangnail and every, not dotted I, because it's not about being honest anymore. In fact, literally, I used to be a Republican, as you know. I've watched that party literally become the place where all the liars, kind of the bottom of the sink, all the liars in the world gravitate towards standing there and lying from the beginning of their remarks till the end. They seem to have no sense of decency, right? We're talking about that quote the other day. Have you no decency, sir? That's exactly what could be said to every Republican that I can put my name on. So anyway, let's say Schumer's right or wrong. I agree with you. It is time for there's no reason for somebody to sit in the Senate for 40 years. We should put age limits. That would be my counter to your put an age limit. And if it's 70, no matter who you are or how great you are, you're done. And that would be a mechanism that doesn't have a bias against, oh, you've been here 40 years, which seems so specific, as opposed to once you hit that thing, you're finished. I would totally support that.
A counter maybe to both of those options of term limits and age limits is to say we always should have a primary.
Yes. Well,
incumbents should not, there should be no benefit of incumbency.
And Joe
if
Biden,
your ideas and your performance has been so amazing, then the voters will see that and will vote for you. Biden should not have gone, oh, well, it's cleared the field. There should have been a legitimate primary. There should be a legitimate primary for every Senate seat. The problem of the Democratic Party in West Virginia, there's been some really excellent reporting on this, is that Manchin spent his entire career gutting the Democratic Party operation within West Virginia to make sure that no one legitimately challenged his seat.
Right.
And then when you see him leave, there is literally zero organizing or report. Right. So they also should not be allowed to have the so-called incumbent advantage.
Right.
And maybe that's the way to solve it. But I don't want to this is another problem of the Democratic Party, is that we sit here and we start shooting each other in the back and in the foot about, should it be term limits or age limits or primaries? The point is that we need to be having some change here. And we can, as the French left is trying to say right now, we can argue later. We can't do anything if we're not back in power. And if people are not willing to go for the jugular right now, then we need the people who are willing to do that, who are willing to fight, who are willing to try and take the media narrative back. And we are not getting that with Chuck Schumer. And here's one of the reasons why we need to be playing for power and not playing for being the smartest person in the room. Hungary has passed a law outlawing protests, outlawing protests, but also outlawing pride events. And they're allowing law enforcement officials to use facial recognition software to track people who are trying to attend these events. LGBTQ Nation has a great article on this, and they interviewed a Russian citizen who lives in Hungary because of what Russia had done attacking the LGBTQ community. And this individual, Yevgeny Belikov, said it's quite terrifying, to be honest, because we had the same in Russia. It was building up step by step, and I feel like that is what's going on here in Hungary. I just only hope that there will be more resistance like this in Hungary, because in Russia, we didn't resist on time, and now it is too late. Right. I don't even understand how Hungary can do this and still be part of the European Union. Like the European Union, this is a free speech issue, and this is what we see happening here in the United States, which is we are losing our free speech rights on a daily basis. First in the LGBTQ community, but once you get it here, there is no stopping them from going from every other community. Again, it's that incrementalism, step by step by step. They try to get rid of this. And I think that we need to be on guard, because this isn't just a Hungarian thing anymore. Orban, the president of Russia, coming to Mar-a-Lago, palling around with Trump saying that we need to be more like Hungary. And here exactly is where we see us being more like Hungary. Arkansas, a bill introduced by Republican lawmakers called the Vulnerable Youth Protection Act that would criminalize anything that could be seen as helping to transition a child. So helping them go through gender affirmation if they're trans or gender nonconforming, which includes haircuts. And that's included in the reporting, that if a stylist was to give a trans child a haircut that aligns with their gender identity, they could be sued for a minimum of $10,000 and up to $10 million, depending on what it is that has been helping that child transition.
Right. Anti-humanism, that's the Republican Party. They hate them some humans, that's for sure.
So it is happening on all fronts. But here's another thing of why the generational change. There have been over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced in state legislatures in March 19th, since January 1st. Over 500. This is just the latest of what they are trying to do. And all of this is them going, yeah, this is free speech. We want to give religious exemptions to, wedding cake bakers, that they don't have to serve LGBTQ couples and make, wedding cakes for them, or have to create wedding websites for them. Oh, by the way, we're going to pass a law that makes it illegal for somebody to give a haircut to a trans kid.
Right. Well, here's my issue about the generational thing. Because young people in 2024 dropped by 11% participation previously, one thing that young people need to do, and this is 18 to 29-year-olds, they have been a fickle demographic. If somebody could somehow generate enthusiasm amongst young people where they were always there and always supporting, and
that's going to be an octogenarian.
Well, I think what's your? I don't see what the point of that is. Whoever can motivate young people. I don't care if it's a 6-year-old. If you can motivate 18 to 29-year-olds to show up at every election and participate, that would guarantee us, 20% more wins than we currently get, because they're there sometimes and then they're not there the next time, then they are there that time. So that's something that I don't know what to do about that. What do you do? Make video games illegal? I don't know. What do you do to make sure that young people show up at these elections? I don't know why they do, and I don't know why they don't. But you're saying that's the solution, young people. But I would say they need to be more interested.
But how are we
have
allowed
to help them be
there
more
are
interested
folks-
in politics?
There are folks that want to have that conversation, but they are not allowed to have leadership positions to engage in that, because the Schumers of the world, the Feinsteins of the world, refuse to step down.
Yep. Well, like I say, age limits does that, and it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't say it's just you or just that one. It doesn't matter what party. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. It doesn't matter. It simply says you've reached the line where thank you for your service, and it would ensure a much younger, line of people working there, because the average would come down quite a bit, wouldn't it? It seems to me. But anyway, I love what you and I both want is change. To fight, I totally agree, and we're going to need to get off the defensive and start putting the fight to them. Like taking my suggestion on that you've heard before is take away the tax exempt status of the Mormon Church, the Church of Scientology, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Take away their tax exempt status, put them on the defensive, and watch them literally spin into the ground. We need to start putting some hand grenades in their lunch basket, because they're very good at doing that to us, and we constantly respond to it. I think we need to get ahead of that and have somebody who's a fighter, who's our Che Guevara, if you will, and is willing to fight a lot of different ways, and is fearless. We need somebody who's fearless. I wouldn't call Chuck Schumer fearless, but he's not the only one. There's a lot of sort of stay the course people in positions of power, and that's not serving us well, because we are now just about ready to get pushed off the cliff. We're very close to that. And so we do need to fight more than metaphorically, I believe.
Well, and we see they with all of this hyper focus on the LGBTQ community and the idea that it's a democratic issue is the thing that boggles my mind, because the New York Times, who I absolutely loathe, the New York Times and Ipsos put out a poll, and they said earlier this year, and it said only 4% of Americans believe that LGBTQ issues should be top of mind for legislators. I can tell you, as a queer person, looking back over the past 30 decades, 30 decades, well, yeah, actually 30 decades, LGBTQ issues are not top of mind for the Democratic Party.
No,
they are not.
I would agree.
But they are top of mind for Republicans. But
all
the
they think
Republicans are never held accountable for that. And when I bring up that poll, is that the New York Times then used it to try to stab the Democratic Party by saying, you all are too obsessed with the LGBTQ community. You're out of step with the rest of the country.
Right.
Why are we trying to pass bills making it illegal to provide haircuts to queer youth?
Well, these are people that are not, that's not a leader. That's a very small, self-loathing person. And we've had that conversation before. The Republicans aren't recruiting leaders anymore. They're not even recruiting people that have any education. They're literally finding somebody in a trailer park and saying, hey, you run for state representative. And you can see it. You can see it in the way they talk about issues, how just utterly embarrassing they are. It's not like they're making a cogent argument. They have the sort of equivalency of somebody that, is a comic book reader or like a 12-year-old.
But this is something of that generational change. And I'm kind of over this argument of this is their last gasp argument. It feels like every cycle we hear this last gasp, that it was gay marriage in the, in the early 2000s, and don't worry, now it's trans folks. Right. And then, we're going to get through this. No, they use LGBTQ people as a punching bag.
Yep. Every
single cycle, because for whatever reason, it is cohesive. It brings them all together. Having this bill and outlawing people providing haircuts in Arkansas to trans kids does nothing for climate change, does nothing for the economic well-being, does nothing for kitchen table issues.
Right. But it distracts the not very intelligent.
From what?
Well, gives
them
somebody
more to get to.
Gives them
after
somebody
this.
to
Something even. Yeah, this is such a depressing day. But we're gonna have more on the Gailey Show after this.
Hey, it's Tom. Minnesotans take pride in protecting our lakes, trees, and natural beauty, and now we have a chance to do even more. The state is committed to 100% renewable energy by 2040, and by switching to all-energy solar, you can help make that goal a reality. Solar works in Minnesota year-round. Now is the time to act. Some federal rebates could disappear with changes in the federal government, so don't miss out. All Energy Solar was named Minnesota's best gold winner in 2024 and recognized as a top solar contractor by Solar Power World.
Go solar and break free from rising energy costs. Generate your own power and reduce your carbon footprint. Join All Energy Solar's free webinar on March 25th at 6 p.m. or March 27th at noon to learn how. Get a step-by-step guide, ask questions, and see if solar is right for you. Register now at allenergysolar.com/webinar.
The future is renewable. The choice is yours. Stop paying the utility company and start producing your own clean energy with All Energy Solar. Get a free consultation today at allenergysolar.com.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hi, I'm Philip Anthony, host of the Downright Upright Show, airing right here on AM 950 radio, Saturdays at 5 p.m. Join me as I dive into captivating captivating conversations with people from all walks of life. As a proud member of the LGBTQ community, I celebrate diversity and beyond with unique stories that make us fantabulous. Please join me every Saturday at 5 p.m. or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We'll talk about how civics, politics, and law affect you by highlighting a different topic each week.
On this week's show, we cover part of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, cover some legal cases that Trump is losing bigly in federal court, and more criticism of Chuck Schumer.
Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch to discover why government and civics matter. And podcast the show anytime on your favorite app.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am John Parker. I think the control room is trying to make this conversation more upbeat with that really fun music.
It's a good show, but yeah, we'll make it a little more upbeat.
Yeah, okay. I don't have anything that's going to make it even better. Because our final segment story to deal with today is around the court. So the Trump administration has disappeared an LGBTQ asylum seeker. And this asylum seeker was from Venezuela, coming to the U.S. And as an artist had artwork, tattoos on their body. Well, the Trump administration has claimed that artwork was representative of a gang that's designated as a terrorist organization. And so instead of bringing them to their hearing last week, they just disappeared this individual. The lawyer has no idea where they are at right now. And a judge put out over the weekend a order for the Trump administration to turn back planes, literally turn back planes, and stop the deportations of 260 Venezuelans. And instead, the Trump administration said, this is a lefty lunatic. That's almost a quote, lunatic lawyer. We're not going to do what he wants. This judge should be impeached. And this to me is where I feel like the courts are not going to save us, because he's basically said, I am ignoring this order. And, you know, I find it absolutely hilarious that the Chief Justice Roberts on the Supreme Court, the man who has literally given him godlike powers, has basically said, oh no, you cannot, we do not impeach judges. It's like, oh, now you need to limit the powers of the executive. Oh, great. When you could have done that in your rulings, no, you gave him all the power. And now you're like, no. You're not supposed to actually use it. Okay. This is the other thing for me and I guess the theme of today is, I am so desperate for a fight. Like, I do not want to go on social media. I don't care about social media. Like, yes, I'm going to vote. And yes, we're going to use this show to help people learn how to vote and know why they need to be voting. And we talk about that participation in democracy, obviously. But there is a whole movement of people like me, and I know you've been doing this longer than I have, Jim, about being a queer person in this country. But there's a whole movement right now of people that are ready for a fighter or a group, the squad. And you see it with Bernie Sanders going to these town halls and having them be standing room only. And I want to see a fighter and be part of that movement right now. Because part of this other thing, of this case that scares the bejesus out of me, is when you look this up, according to uscourts.gov, the branch of government at the federal level who is in charge of enforcing federal judicial decisions is the executive branch.
Mhm.
Which is absolutely bonkers to me, that in the Constitution, and when we were having our constitutional convention, that the framers of the Constitution were so stupid as to think that the executive branch was going to enforce all of the decisions. And we saw that famously in the Brown versus Board of Education, where the Supreme Court said, no, you have to integrate these schools. And the governors down there were like, nah, we're not going to do that. And Eisenhower finally said, no, you're going to do it. And I'm going to send down the National Guard. What if Eisenhower hadn't said that?
Mhm.
So now we have a president who's saying, no, I am not going to enforce judicial decisions.
Right.
Who is going to do that?
Well, we're in a dangerous place. First of all, I want to say I agree with you. I believe this administration, and particularly Stephen Miller, is quite capable of making people disappear. That's and we both know what that could mean. So if people are needing some motivation to get, angry enough to act, that would be a good one, because I think that's the first example that we're aware of.
Queer people, I feel, are the canaries in the coal mine, always have been, always will be.
Yep.
Because we are the eternal punching bag of the conservatives and the far right.
Yep.
And MAGA and all the fascists. We are continuously so. But there is a movement right now. There is a counter-revolutionary moment waiting in this country. And I just don't understand why we are not seizing it. As a queer person, there's only so much that we can. Yes, we have the show, and we're trying to educate, and we're trying to get the word out, and we're uplifting amazing journalists on here. We're going to continue to do that. We've got some coming up here that I'm absolutely thrilled to be hosting, and folks that we want to continue to bring. We're going to have Fair Wisconsin on next week, the executive director, to talk about what's happening. That's their version of Out Front Minnesota. And yes, we can continue to do that, but there is a fight that folks are willing to do and have right now, a counter-revolutionary moment, and it's not being taken advantage of.
Well, not yet, but I think the pressure in the pot is boiling, and I think it's building, and I think we're going to get some relief if things go well on April 1st, and I think they will. But to your point, most people that I'm talking to anyway are sort of biding their time. They're paying attention to something else. They're thinking about.
But they're missing it.
They're thinking
it's
about
here.
Their kids.
We're all chomping at the bit for it.
I know.
We don't need to bide our time anymore. It's here. It's waiting for us. We're ready for it. And there's no executive leadership.
Well, it's not going to dissipate.
But it will. That's the problem, is that if
so.
you don't harness it.
I think this administration is going to keep shoving their foot down our throat. And I think people that think they're going to wait it out are dead wrong.
Well, obviously we're going to keep continuing this conversation. Tomorrow we have a really great Thinking Clearly, Thinking Queerly episode for you. It is actually on a completely different topic. It is about caring for our partners when they have cancer. So stay tuned for that. Up next is the Matt McNeil Show. After that, the Native Roots Radio. And until tomorrow at 2 o'clock, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.
Tune in this Saturday morning right here on AM 950 for the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. We'll be discussing easy vegetables to grow in your garden this year, as well as keys to success for a better garden. Our guest is YouTuber and organic gardener Angel Gist will be with us. So tell your friends that Garden Talk Radio is on AM 950 Saturday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. Tell a friend and let's grow together.
Hi, this is Paul Metza, host of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We have been on the air on AM 950 for 10 years. We feature cool people from all walks of life in all 50 states. We've had musicians, politicians,